This is fantastic news. There are a lot of Westerners that have been arbitrarily detained by Iran, but in particular, Nazanin's case has been followed very closely here in London and in the UK more widely. It's great news, and of course, we all know that the reason for this is because the government here has finally agreed to pay the debt, the legitimate debt that it has owed Iran for many years over the non-delivery of tanks, these chieftain tanks that Iran had paid for many, many years ago.
So it's paying back that debt, and that's brought about the breakthrough. But Sahil, it also comes at a time when Iran is sort of gaining a bit of leverage because of the chaos that has been caused by the invasion of Ukraine.
Absolutely. I think that Iran finds itself in a stronger position due to the events over the past 3 weeks after Russia invaded Ukraine. And, although the deal at that point was very close and still remains to be very close to being finalized, there are some gaps. There are some things that Iran still wants from the United States in terms of sanctions relief. Those gaps are indeed narrowing, and the two parties can finally get back to trying to figure those out now that Russia has walked back its own demands, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I think that Iran knows that the West would benefit also substantially from its oil coming back on market. And really, more importantly, for this major transatlantic security issue, which is Iran's expanding and growing nuclear program, to be finally put back under a lid for inspections, verification, monitoring, everything to be back in place so that the US and Europe can really focus their attention on de-escalating the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, and I mean, if ever there was a moment in time where a nuclear-powered nation invading another one sent off alarm bells, it is this particular crisis. So, Sahil, let's talk about the discussions yesterday with Moscow and Iran. Tell us about what they mean by the fact that the invasion of Ukraine is not going to impede the cooperation. What assurances has the US given?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. Essentially, around the 4th of March, Russia had said that, we are being sanctioned more and more by the United States, and we need to make sure that our tasks under the deal, which is meant to be imminently restored, can actually be carried out. A lot of those tasks have to do with civil nuclear cooperation. So, for example, Russia is meant to provide fuel for the Tehran research reactor. They're meant to help export the excess stockpiles of enriched uranium that Iran has accumulated after Trump left the deal. So these types of things Russia wanted to make sure that it would be able to do. However, in the days that followed, Foreign Minister Lavrov came forward and listed a whole bunch of other demands, including ensuring that Russia and Iran's trade relationship would be able to continue and wouldn't be harmed by US sanctions. Washington obviously said that we're happy to ensure that the civil nuclear cooperation can continue, but other than that, they weren't willing to provide additional guarantees. So as of yesterday, Moscow has walked back on its wider demands. And I think that the visit by the Iranian foreign minister to Moscow was essentially to say, don't ruin this for us. Our people are heavily sanctioned, and we don't want these external factors between you and the United States and Europe to get in the way of us finalizing this now after 11 long months of negotiations.
Yeah, so such a significant thing, and interesting that Moscow did walk that back given the crisis that they are in at the moment and looking for relations to continue with the few countries that are prepared to do so.
Absolutely. Russia and Iran have a long-standing historic relationship, and that is actually, a great example of that is indeed Russia's cooperation with Iran on its civil nuclear program. And that's why I think it was so important for Russia to make sure that that continues, because Russia benefits from that economically, and Iran benefits from having a major world power be able to help it make sure that its nuclear program is efficient, running well, and delivering energy to the Iranian people. And more so, not even just energy, but things like radio isotopes, so things for medical reasons, other things that nuclear energy can provide.
Sahil, so how confident are you now that we are very close to having this deal reactivated?
Well, we've been very close for quite some time, so it's always difficult to put a number on it. But I would say that, in these types of moments, having near-death experiences, really shakes people up, and that's a reason why the negotiators went on a break in recent days. It's because emotions were high, and I think that nobody wants to see another external factor or global development derail this. So I think everybody is very focused. Like I said, there are a few small bilateral US-Iran issues that need to be sorted out, but I would say that it would be a great shame, and I think everybody involved knows that, if this were to fall apart at this point, because we are oh so absolutely close. It is very true. The text, is nearly there.
Yeah, nearly inked, and as you say, such a moment in time to focus the mind. Thank you, Sahil. A good to talk as always.
Thank you, Beverly. Thank you.